Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. You like that fancy cam work? Huh? You like that? You like that? You like that? Huh? Well, glad to have you here. Happy Monday. We're grateful to have you watching the show live with us right now at, 7:01 in the morning. I'm a minute late. Grateful to have Quest Fanning, Phil White, Steffi P. Good morning, wifey. The lovely Steffi P. Barney Styles is joining us here. Studio 314. Corey C. Caleb Vanderfelt's Anna Maria, grazie plena. Justin Peterson, my brother, is here, as well as Chris Morrill. And the Stream Elements bot is running. Thanks so much for tuning into the show today. Give yourselves a round of applause. We're glad to have you here. Of course, our Rumble audience is here as well, and we'd like to give them a round of applause. Fancy, right? Oh, geez, 3-camera lockdown. You know what the only problem is with these cameras? Is it because it's 3 different cameras, and I'm not like an awesome cameraman or anything like that. They're all like 3 different colors. You can see nice little orange here. Orange AP. This is the Trumpy AP. This is the long shot. This is actually, the color isn't too bad, but I look a little bit like shiny, if you will. But then there's this beautiful camera. That's one that I like to stick on. I've got some awesome guests for you today. I mean, the topics are overflowing. I've got so much good content to talk about. We can talk about whatever we wanted to today because there's so much interesting news going on. Terry Miller's here to join us this morning. Good morning, Terry. Glad to have you here. I'm super grateful to everybody who tunes in so quickly in the morning here with us. If you're listening to us a little bit later, you should definitely check us out and watch the show live. It's a great way to, while you're getting ready for work in the morning, to have it on in the background, hear about what's going on in the news. Great guests, great interviews, and God, I'm just bursting at the seams. This whole week is already starting to fill up. I got John Burke coming in on Thursday. And then I'm going to be on his show later that day because people were demanding it. They're like, I want to hear Austin and John Burke together again. Well, you get basically 3 hours of Austin and John Burke on Thursdays. So 3-hour Thursdays with AP and John Burke. That's exciting. Heidi Briones, do you know her? She's one of the LGBT community members who's very proud to be out against child grooming. What? Going to be an interesting conversation. She'll be joining us tomorrow. Elijah Schaefer will be joining us tomorrow. I'm excited to talk to Elijah. I haven't seen him since I was in Texas a couple years ago on his show on The Blaze. He's going to be joining us all the way from Australia, down under. And we will talk to him tomorrow along with Heidi Briones and, of course, Judge Napolitano on Wednesday. Today's show, even better. What are you going to get today? Dominick Izzo is going to be joining us with a discussion about the Patriot Front. Have you seen this group of guys that wear masks and walk around with Nazi flags and American flags? Well, apparently Marjorie Taylor Greene, the congresswoman from Georgia, has been speaking out against them lately, and she's calling for investigation into these guys. They showed up at an event this last weekend carrying Nazi flags and Patriot flags, American flags and things. And of course, they're always masked, and they looked like feds, total feds. We're going to talk to Dominick Izzo, former cop from the Chicago area, this morning at 8 o'clock about the Patriot Front and get to the bottom of who these people are. We'll talk about that at 8 a.m. Jon Miltimore is going to join us this morning at 8:30 a.m. to talk about the ESG empire strikes back and what a lot of people have been missing from the controversy surrounding Bud Light. It's going to be a good conversation today with Jon Miltimore, the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education. He'll be joining us today at 8:30. The first hour, it's going to be just all me, baby. And I've got some interesting news, some sad news. Did you see that the Kennedy show was canceled on Fox Business? Yeah, that was not cool. Apparently, the Fox Business show Kennedy will be canceled after, she's been on the air since 2015, or she's been on the air for quite some time over there on Fox Business, and they're replacing her with reruns. That doesn't make any sense. What? I know. Everybody loved Kennedy's show, at least the libertarians did, but apparently the Fox Business Network saw fit to cancel her and to replace her with reruns of the Larry Kudlow show, which I don't know if that's a good idea, but the fact is that they did it. So we'll talk about that this morning at 8 o'clock. Looks like, excuse me, at 7:20. It looks as if we've got some new chat features over on YouTube. If you're joining us now, wow, okay, I'm kind of spamming the chat right now like that. Take a look over there on the right-hand side. You should see a little heart button. Looks like you can spam some emojis over there in the chat. Yeah, use those. Those look like fun. Give me some of that. Speaking of Kennedy, I saw that Jack Dorsey is endorsing John F. Kennedy Jr. So much for Jack then. Not sure about that. I'll have to take a look at that news later. That must be breaking news. But the big story today that we're going to be talking about at 7:30 in about 25 minutes, TikTokers gone wild. Did you see the video of the young man who jumped off of the pirate cruise ship down in the Caribbean, never to be seen again? I saw that story when it came out the day after, and a lot of people were saying he got eaten by a shark, and obviously that's quite possible. But the fact is that at first, when I saw the video, I didn't think it was a shark. I didn't believe it. But on subsequent viewings of the video of this young man who jumped over on a dare and has disappeared in the Caribbean, the search has been called off. It does look like a shark, actually, and, we're gonna talk about that and viral pranks and how teenagers are literally killing themselves for an audience. We're gonna talk about that this morning at 7:30, but before we do, let's talk about Generation Z in general and why Generation Z struggles in the workforce. I'm reading this article from the last week about the idea that kids don't know the concept of hard work is kind of a trope that's as old as the concept of youth itself, right? It's mostly wrong, or it's outdated. Right? It kind of reflects the natural changes and attitudes that people experience as they age, rather than any kind of like real degeneracy amongst the younger lot. Let's be honest here, right? But in the case of Generation Z, however, something interesting and concerning is afoot. Anecdotal evidence, which is as good as an anecdote, right? As Gen Z enters the workforce, suggested that those emerging adults are struggling to interact productively with coworkers and with clients alike in many white collar settings. And some survey data actually backs this up. Justin Peterson over in the live stream asking the real questions. Why did he swim away from the life preserver? Well, probably because shark bait, ooh ha ha. But we will get to that, Justin. That's at 7:30, so let's not get ahead of ourselves, okay? We got to talk about why Gen Z is struggling to cope in the workforce. According to a recent sample of 1,300 managers, 1 in 8 has had to terminate a Gen Z employee after less than 1 week on the job. And real world evidence is confirming this concept even further. Last month, global accounting giants Deloitte and PwC reported spending valuable time and money to give new recruits in Britain remedial lessons on in person meetings and face to face presentations. Okay, well, God, that's pretty tragic. I remember when we had things like this in we had career day training stuff in school, but it was like middle school and like my freshman year in high school when we would sit down with like the career counselors and we would do fake interviews and fake meetings and things like that. Did you do stuff like this in school? Because I remember doing stuff like this at school, but apparently employers are having to teach these skills to young people. How to sit down and pay attention in a meeting without flipping through your phone. I kind of struggle with that, to be honest. Sometimes I get a little bored. But that was back when I had meetings and I worked for somebody else. So, maybe the rule is just don't get a job. A lot of psychological markers are indicating that Generation Z's outward workplace difficulties are matched by inner turmoil. Listen to this. Between 2007 and 2017, the year the oldest Zoomers turned 20, rates of anxiety and depression increased among American young adults by 63%. Now, on the other side of a global pandemic that disrupted this cohort's most formative years, more than half are reporting having experienced such distress. A lot of depression and a lot of anxiety make for a toxic brew. And that's probably going to be a perfect segue to our segment where we talk about the teenagers dying for attention on social media apps. We'll get to that topic in just a few minutes. I'll play that clip for you, that shark. Uh, so in 2018, Jonathan Haidt and Greg Lukianoff published this book, The Coddling of the American Mind. It's a great book if you haven't read it yet. How good intentions and bad ideas are setting up for a generation of failure. In that they argue that a cult of safetyism and a fundamental resistance to risk has captured our universities. The pandemic confirmed and magnified this thesis that universities were among the most zealous advocates for remote activities long after its necessity wore off. Now, the University of California system still had most of its campuses in remote only mode, even a year after the vaccines had become universally available. But by that point, in the academic saga, the norms had been so degraded and the performance expectations had been lowered so much that they'd never turned around. So academia took a gigantic hit from the pandemic in the form of safetyism, and now the standards and expectations are so low that we don't know if they will ever return to normal. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic this morning. You can send us a text today at 573-319-1586. Quest Fanning says, I suppose learning how to properly shake a hand will be a 600 level class. Funny stuff. Maria says, ugh, meetings, they're only for management at my job. Staying away from that. I totally get it. Chris, Studio 314 said the next reality show should be a group of youngsters entitled enough to think they deserve free stuff dropped in the middle of the wilderness. God, wouldn't that be awesome to see, like, just like Socialist Survivor? That would be friggin' awesome. You know what? That's the next best reality show. Socialist Survivor. They're all like screaming, running around, panicking. There's no government to give them food and money. Glad to have you here. My lovely Stephanie's talking smack about me over on Rumble. She says Austin loves his phone. Yes, it's true. Good morning to all of our Rumblers this morning. 30 people watching right now over there. Beating you over on YouTube. Way to go, Rumblers. Give us a like if you are enjoying the program this morning. And make sure that you subscribe too. It's been exciting to watch our Rumble stream really growing like crazy. And Stephanie, thanks so much for advertising the shirt. As you can see, I am wearing the AP for Liberty Shop special designed by me. The all gun laws are an infringement shirt. I kind of wish that I was wearing it when those weirdos showed up on my property the other day with a gun. Would have been awesome. But no, I was actually wearing a pretty awesome tank top, the American flag tank top while I was doing that. So just chasing the youngsters off my lawn while wearing the American flag shirt with my M1 Garand. Pretty awesome. You can text the show today again, 573-319-1586. And this is a perfect segue to this other story I was reading. When I saw yesterday, this, everybody complains about the young people. Young people, they're so soft, they're so terrible. And, maybe there's some evidence to this when it comes to Generation Z and having to teach them how to do basic meetings and stuff. But I saw this other story over on Business Insider with the headline, Young Men Aren't Working as Much as They Used to, and they have less financial freedom than previous generations. It got me thinking because I saw the gentleman yesterday who was bitching about this story, talking about how like fat and lazy and stupid young people are, and how they don't work hard and they don't show up to work. And trust me, I've seen my share of lazy young people who don't want to work, who want a job, but they don't want to actually do anything at the job. Um, so, gosh, I'm trying to find this tweet. I should have had this pulled up here, but um, it's like how much more can you crap on the young generation, whether it's the right wingers who crap on young men who are not as good as their forefathers, and the leftists who crap all over them with when they do get a job, then they've got to sit through mandatory diversity, equity, and inclusion training. It's like you can't win. So when I see headlines like this, young men aren't working as much as they used to, well, maybe it's because they're told that they're worthless pieces of crap by old boomer cons from the right, and the left is telling them what horrible racist sexists they are, and how they need to make less than the women and the people of color that work at their office. And then if they don't get a job or they don't work as hard as the people who are demanding that they work so that they can pay for their welfare benefits do, then you get to read headlines like these. Young men aren't working as much as they used to, and they have less financial freedom than previous generations do. 25-year-olds were less likely to be working full-time in 2021 than in previous generations. That's driven by men working less than they did 4 decades ago. Men have been leaving the workforce in greater numbers over the last few years. Over the past few years. So Americans in their mid-20s are less likely to be working full-time and to be financially independent than their previous generations. at the same age. This is according to 1980 decennial census data and a new Pew Research analysis of the 2021 American Community Survey of over 3 million U.S. households. 66% of 25-year-olds in 2021 were working full-time, and that's down from 73% of 25-year-olds. This is a huge, huge drop, a precipitous drop. In 1980, I just like that word precipitous, 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 precipitous. Uh, um, 66% of 25-year-olds in 2021 were working full time. That's down from 73%. Now, that could be skewed, of course, by the pandemic, but we're not sure. 60% had financial independence, which Pew defined as an income of at least 150% of the poverty level. That was down from 63% in 1980. So, broken down by gender, though, the data indicates that men are the ones that have driven these changes. So, 4 decades ago, 40 years ago, 85% of 25-year-old men were working full time. In 2021, it was 71%. So it went from 85% 40 years ago to now 71%. That's huge. Financial independence among this group declined from 77% of men, 25-year-old men, being financially independent to 64% in 2021. Women, how do you think they've done? They've fared better. Oh, ladies, congratulations. That's lovely.
Look at her. She looks like she's 19 years old, sitting there with her, like a little lady with a race car.
Okay, Joe. Women have fared better. 61% of 25-year-old women were working full-time in 2021, in line with the 61% that did so in 1980. Financial independence among this group rose from 50% in 1980 to 56% in 2021. It's suggesting that more young women have found their way into higher paying professions. Congratulations, ladies. Glad you're doing so well. Does this mean, though, ladies, that you have lowered your standards in terms of the expectations of what you can get out of a man in terms of how much he earns and his financial independence? Because you would think that with women having more opportunities now and working more and making more money, that now they're definitely looking into dating men that are more of their income level and things like that, perhaps. Have you started to lower your standards there, ladies, in that way? No, no? You haven't done that? Interesting. You can text the show today at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. We'd love to hear from you on these topics. I'm going to go to a very brief commercial break, and when I get back, we're going to talk about the kid who jumped into the open arms. Did I leave that? I had the camera there the whole time. Oops. Why didn't somebody tell me these things? There's no cameraman. It's just me. I got a little button over here on the side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, I'm going to make you dizzy. All right. When I get back, we talk about shark bait. Ooh ha ha. The Wake Up America show. Teenagers doing stupid viral pranks, getting themselves killed. When we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Petersen stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
This kid fucking jumped off! Oh my fucking god! Oh, bye-bye! Oh shit! That shit! Hey, grab the buoy! Hey, the buoy! Yo, this kid's fucking gone, bro!
He's gone, bro. Good morning. It's Monday, 7:25 a.m. Thanks so much for tuning into the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Petersen. Grateful to have you here. If you're new to the show and you don't know, we like to ask our listeners, if you're enjoying the content, make sure you click that like button and join us every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. The Wake Up America show is a 2-hour live talk show and video podcast. We do cut the audio and post that as well later if you'd like to listen to us. But if you can't listen to us live, grateful to have you here. Cameron Robbins jumped to a watery demise after a doomed dare in a haunting video. Cameron Robbins disappeared after jumping into the ocean after a booze-fueled cruise went out in the Bahamas. Cameron Robbins was an 18-year-old high school graduate. He's been missing since the 24th of May when he fell off of the cruise ship. Well, I say fell off. When he jumped off a cruise ship into waters near the Bahamas. He was celebrating his graduation from the University Laboratory School in Baton Rouge. He was taking a trip to the Bahamas with other teenagers when this tragic incident occurred aboard the Blackbeard's Revenge. It's a sunset cruise. Mr. Robbins jumped overboard, apparently on a dare. Video of the incident shows Mr. Robbins jumping and swimming into the waters in almost complete darkness. Of course, online speculation was that it was a shark ate him, but we don't really know what happened to him exactly. Now, I will say this from the video here. I'm going to play it again for you here very briefly. When I first saw this, people were saying, "Oh gosh, yes, this was absolutely a shark attack." I didn't believe him, and I thought that it was just the water, because sometimes the water and the waves, a white wave, could look like a fish. However, after subsequent examination of the video and from some people who have slowed it down and added some effects to it to sort of brighten up that wave that I thought it was, well, if you're watching us live, it's much better. If you're listening to us later, you're gonna have no idea what the hell I'm looking at and talking about. So sorry about that. That's a good reason to watch us live or watch the video video later. Take a look at this.
This kid
Okay,
fucking jumped off!
Sorry about the language, by the way. FYI, it's some bad language in this video. It's drunk 18-year-olds. Okay. All right, boom. So at this moment in the video, you can see him, and they have thrown him a life preserver here. Now, you can see the life preserver here in the upper left-hand corner of the video. You can see where I'm indicating here. That's the life preserver. And right here, is the alleged shark that I thought was a wave. Now, you can see it very briefly, boom, a splash. Now, these waters absolutely are shark infested. As a scuba diver, I've been down to the Caribbean before, and these waters are absolutely full of sharks. And this is nighttime, so prime feeding time for some of these apex predators here. Take a looky here. Now, so you can see him, boom, he sees that. I'm going to call it a fish or a shark. We don't know that for sure. It's alleged, but in my opinion, it is very likely a very big fish, and that definitely would frighten you, because you can see here he's starting towards the buoy. He's swimming for the life preserver until he sees.
Oh my fucking god! Oh, bye-bye! Oh shit! That's the buoy!
He's swimming away from it after that because he sees what's coming. Now, let's take a look here at this video that this sort of online sleuther posted with some exposure settings. You can actually see right there the eye of the sea creature that's in between him and the buoy. Take a look at this. She slows it down a bit, and then you can watch it as it goes. That's something moving in the water right there. The shark eye glows here when exposure is at 100%. And then you can see him noping the F out of there. He's like, I just saw a shark or a giant sea creature, and I'm out of here. Soon may the weathermen come and bring us sugar and tea and rum. Now, somebody was nice enough to post a video of what happens when you jump off a cruise ship into shark-infested waters, and most likely what happened to that 18-year-old who did the dare. Take a look at this video.
Oh, wow.
You're just throwing a piece of meat over there in the water in the Bahamas. Beautiful blue water. There it is. Boom, big piece of meat. Zoom in. Now, what happens?
They come from nowhere. Wow.
1, 2, 3, 4. A piece of meat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Look how fast they are. Didn't take very long. all gone. And yeah, and teenager go bye-bye. It's just sort of like this disturbing trend of one-upsmanship and gamesmanship that's happening on social media of youngsters who are trying to, impress one another, trying to impress girls. Do you remember the blackout challenge, right? There was a lawsuit. Parents actually sued TikTok saying children died after viewing the blackout challenge. One girl who was 8, another one who was 9 died with this trying to do this new challenge where the algorithm was pushing this content that led to these girls' death, right? The blackout challenge encouraged users to choke themselves until they passed out. The lawsuit claimed that TikTok knew or should have known that their product was addictive and that it was directing children to harmful content, and that it failed to take significant action to stop those videos or warn parents or children about them, right? So the complaint cites in particular from this lawsuit that TikTok shows a stream of videos selected by an algorithm that's based on a user's demographic likes and prior activity on the app. The lawyer of this lawsuit says that TikTok needs to be held accountable for pushing deadly content to these two girls. Chris Morrill says, I mean, young men do stupid stuff, but you're supposed to have some sort of filter for the stuff that's so stupid it's almost suicidal. You would think so. But 18 years old and drunk on a party boat in the Caribbean, surrounded by young women, I mean, they're going to do stupid stuff. And we all remember the Tide Pod challenge, of course, but some of us have already forgotten about the Benadryl challenge. Yeah, this dates back all the way to the heady days of April 18th, 2023. An Ohio boy, 13-year-old, died 6 days after attempting TikTok trend Benadryl challenge. Jacob Stevens' aunt says no mother should have to say goodbye to her baby. A 13-year-old boy in Ohio died after taking the Benadryl challenge. The viral social media trend involves TikTok users taking large amounts of Benadryl, right? It's an over-the-counter allergy medicine. We all know what that is, right? To try and get high. Jacob took part in the trend and began seizing and had to be hospitalized and was put on a ventilator for 6 days before his death. And when he did, it all came at once. It was too much for his body. Anna Marie says, kids did that in my generation. They just didn't record it. I remember it was a trend to choke yourself out, or there were challenges to shock yourself with a dog shock collar. Chris Morrill says, yeah, but I bet his allergies were taken care of. Steffi P says, when I was on a cruise, a drunk guy jumped into an empty pool and we had to wait for him to be airlifted. Well, I can't read the rest of that. Airlifted for something during the cruise ship. Yes, I know. Airlifted for help during the cruise ship. Yeah. The new little, if you're watching this on your phones, you can see that YouTube has like a new feature where you can do like hearts and reacts and stuff like that. Hit a bunch of those buttons, by the way. Just hit them a bunch of them over and over again. Get that interaction up. But yeah, it does kind of block what I'm trying to be able to read and see here. So, you can text the show today, your thoughts on this at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Steffi P says, this is one of the reasons why scuba diving is nerve-wracking. You can see a shark at any moment. It's true. I have videos of Steffi actually swimming with a shark. It's pretty cool stuff. Did I show that on this live stream back then? I think I did. Good morning to True82. Good morning. Good morning. And Kentucky Objectivist joining us as well. Glad to have you here. He says social media seems to encourage the worst in kids. Maybe don't let your kids use social media. They're too dumb for it. Yeah, gotta agree. Glad to have you here as well, John Rail. Appreciate very much all of our friends joining us here on the talk show today, the Wake Up America show. We've got lots of great content for you today, as well as good guests. You know, we're talking about TikTok viral challenges that keep luring these young kids to their death. You know, children are dying from the blackout challenge. This Cameron Robbins character jumped off a cruise ship to his death. You know, why aren't these corporations doing more to protect these kids? You would think that the negative backlash from things like this would spark these corporations from making a change, but at least to my knowledge, it hasn't happened yet. And there's a cultural problem, and I will fully admit that, you know, I don't have an answer to this when it comes to things like government spending or government power or things like that. And civil rights, civil liberties, I have opinions all day long about how to solve these things. But in terms of the cultural problems that we face with young people literally offing themselves for viral challenges, for stupid pranks, for things like this, I don't have a solution to things like this. But honestly, I'd love to hear from you. If you think there is a solution, why don't you send us a text 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Doug H says, that shark is going to be famous now. A real starfish. Where's my shish? There it is. Ah, it worked. Okay, good. I'm glad to know. I do have that. I've got like buttons everywhere. I've got like 75 buttons over here. Got like 25 buttons here, 160 buttons here, and then 500 buttons over here. It's a lot of buttons over here, but I do have it. Oh, that's a good one. Okay, what else do I have on here? Got to hold that down. Okay. No, that's actually kind of nice. Okay. Oh, I like that applause. I don't know if I like it better than this one. Yeah, kind of weird. Oh, it's got a little intro and outro. There we go. All right. Well, I think that's a good time to go to a little commercial break. I got to rest my voice. All this talking. When I get back, though, what we gonna talk about? Former Target executive reveals the one item that sparked the consumer firestorm. What was it? Talk about that when we get back in the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Get funky. Oh, the other sound isn't playing. You guys can't hear it? Oh, okay. Talk about make me feel like an idiot. Okay, there we go. How about this? God, Austin. Oh, talk about somebody's gonna have to clip that and play that later, make me look like a fool. We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me pups build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Thanks so much for tuning into the program. Make sure you smash that like button. Help us spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. And if you're not subscribed to the channel you're watching us right now, hit that sub button so that we can get the message out there. We love it. We love you, and we love to hear from you as well. You can send us the text 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Quest Fanning did just that when he sent me a message at 7:38 a.m. He said World War II generation parents were too strict, so boomer parents were too laxed. Every generation of new parents seemed to be a bad counter-reaction to the last. Very interesting. Thanks for that POV. You can send yours again at 573-319-1586. Miss Wren over on YouTube says generational trauma is largely overcorrecting. Yeah, kind of sustaining what Quest Fanning was saying there. A lot of the Gen X millennial parenting advice you see online ends up being about avoiding overcorrecting without abusing your kids. That's a really good point. Thank you, Miss Wren. Grateful to have your feedback over there. Zed the Head over there joining us on Rumble. He says LGBTQ is an ideology, not a person or a people. We're going to get to that in just a moment. I do want to finish this conversation about Gen Z trying to become TikTok famous, jumping off of cruise ships. If you missed the video of what happened to this kid jumping off of the cruise ship, let me play it for you again. Again, just caution, there is very severe, heavy, harsh language in this. Age drunk 18-year-olds. But here we are. See Cameron Robbins in the water. He jumped off the cruise ship. He was on a booze cruise with his fellow high school graduates.
This kid fucking jumped off! Oh my fucking god! Oh, bye-bye! Oh shit! That shit! Hey, grab the buoy! Hey, the buoy!
Imagine you're 18 years old, you're in the Atlantic Ocean in the Caribbean, shark-infested waters. You just jumped off as part of a dare. You see a shark flop in the water right in front of you, between you and the life preserver. And your last words that you hear are another drunk 18-year-old pointing a video camera at you going, but yeah, this is what you have to look forward to as a young person these days. And a lot of people were speculating about whether or not it was a shark or not. I'm going with the shark theory, and it's because I've been watching videos like these during the weekend to get myself prepared for you. But boom, you can kind of see the shark's eyes glowing right there. Boom. Called a shark, it could just be a fish, but it looks rather like a sharky fish. Yeah, the eye glows there when the exposure is 100%. And I showed the video of, what happens when you jump into shark-infested waters there. What a nice place to be. Dying for fame. That's what we're talking about here today on the Wake Up America show. The high of becoming TikTok famous is killing millennials and Generation Z. Tessie Hires' son was dying to be famous, and a deadly TikTok stunt sealed his fate. His mother said, if I would have known about some of the dangerous things he was doing in these TikTok videos, I would have stopped him and he'd still be here with me. Florida woman's 18-year-old son, Timothy Isaiah Hall, known to his more than 273,000 followers as @Timbo the Redneck, he died while attempting a fishtailing stunt to impress his online audience. The daredevil deed propelled Hall out of his GMC truck's driver's side window, his 4,000 plus pickup nicknamed Big Booty Judy. After he received it as a high school graduation gift, toppled onto its side and onto his body, crushing his internal organs. But he did die with more than 2.5 million likes to his credit. There you go. Well, congratulations to you. Let's give it up for his 2.5 million likes. Cheeky Mare says, my mic cuts in and out a little bit, AP. Let's see if this solves the problem here. I'm going to just kill the processing on that. Now, you tell me, Cheeky Mary, if this improves the mic quality or not. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, I'll go back to where we just were. Again, you can text the show today at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Doug H. asks, is this the new Zapruder film? Back and to the left, back to the left. Yeah, I was actually kind of shocked to see how much people were analyzing and overanalyzing this video. But I think it's because, teenager dies. It's the last video before they died. So, and of course, teenage girls and women in general are like obsessed with death. So they're going to analyze this video over and over again and add a shark into the mix. And it's a shark video, the possibility of a shark. People are going to analyze this over and over again. Your voice is lovely, AP. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Cheeky Mare. You're lovely yourself. Anyways, this kid, this Timbo the redneck kid who got squashed to death by Big Booty Judy, his truck, is just one of a number of digital influencers who have died or who have had skull-breaking injuries, heart attacks induced by dry scooping, eating disorders, and even deaths while executing reckless stunts in the name of social media superstardom via TikTok. Among the first of one of those TikTok tragedies was Chloe Phillips. She was a 15-year-old girl from Oklahoma. She died of a heart attack from that Benadryl challenge we were talking about before the break. Joshua Haley Suss, 12 years old, was discovered unconscious last year by his twin brother on the bathroom floor of their Colorado home after he attempted the TikTok blackout challenge. That's when, the teenagers hold their breath until they pass out. He was pronounced brain dead and died after 19 days on life support. Equally alarming, of course, is the number of deaths by unaliving themselves. I don't want to say the S word because we're on social media. That's been racked up by teens and 20-somethings despite millions of followers and lucrative digital clout. One woman said, my son loved TikTok and always wanted to make the best videos for his fans. Timbo, the one who got crushed by Big Booty Judy, he got a lot of viewers because of what he called his Confederate comedy and Timbo's hashtag living Southern shtick. But his mother said he took his love for being popular on the app too far, and now he's gone forever, and my heart is broken, and it will always be broken. Medical experts have plenty to say about millennial and Gen Z fame seekers, though, becoming addicted to this euphoric sensation of attaining notoriety via hazardous TikTok tactics. They're concerned that the threat of death isn't enough to deter young people from the allure of internet infamy. The intoxication a person feels from the combination of dopamine and adrenaline that's released when their posts go viral is unbelievable, says NYU Langone health psychologist Yamalis Diaz. Imagine being able to try and pronounce those words. Neurologically, that high is like a drug. NYU Langone health psychologist Yamalis Diaz. Try and say that for 3 effing times fast. Again, you can text the show today at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Have you guys seen that John Brooks is going to be on the show this Thursday? I'm excited to talk to you guys about his company Shell Shock CBD, which is partnered with the Wake Up America show to bring you the absolute best in Delta 8 and CBD products. This is not just a regular conversational ad for me, because I was a huge CBD and Delta 8 skeptic. Many of you might have heard the story of me traveling to the Renaissance Fair with my wife, trying Delta 8 for the first time, and then being like, this stuff doesn't work. It's not effective. There's no way I would ever try this again. Well, my buddy John Burke started a Shell Shock CBD company and said, Austin, you got to try this stuff. Mine's different. I've got a great company with products that are actually effective. So I said, all right, John, send me a box. Let me try them. I did. And let me tell you, well, I was tired the next morning because I was up all night having fun after trying the Delta 8 CBD gummies. Now, I'm honestly kind of scared to try the Delta 8 bar, but I am thinking about doing my own viral challenge. Would you guys like to see me try a Delta bar one day on the show. The problem is that these chocolate bars are like 40 milligrams in like one piece of chocolate. So that's why I'm scared to do it. But maybe what I'll do one day, like on a Friday or something like that, when Stephanie's in here, is I'll take a Delta 8 gummy at the beginning of the show, and then we'll see how I do. We'll see how effective it is by the end of the show when I start slurring my words and forgetting what I'm saying. Shell Shock CBD is safe and effective, though, and it's legal in, well, I think, let's see, 8 states have made it illegal, so that makes 42 states where it's legal. So make sure you check with your state before you get your own. ShellShockCBD.com. Use my code AP4Liberty. That's AP, the number 4. AP for Liberty, the numeral 4. The AP for Liberty code will get you 10% off. And don't forget, too, that you will get your money back if you are not fully satisfied with your products. So visit shellshockcbd.com and use that code AP for Liberty. That's AP, the number 4, AP for Liberty. Steffi says, I can do CBD assisted therapy with you. I think that would be pretty hilarious. Would you guys like to see that? You got to do it about an hour before the show. How would you know, Maria? I know what you've been doing. All right, we're going to go to a commercial break. But when I get back, I'm going to talk to Dominick Izzo from the Rants of Izzo. You guys like Dominick, don't you? He's been great. We've had him on the show a couple of times. One time he totally ghosted us. We're going to talk to Dominick Izzo about who are the Patriot Front. You know these guys that show up to rallies with like the Nazi flags and things like that? You know what? Here, let me actually show the clip before we go here. Look at these guys. So who are these guys? Covering their faces. They sure look like feds to me. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Campaign crew, this is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter, and I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian, and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control control of my own destiny.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? You can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Good morning, Rise in Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Grateful to have you here. Thanks so much for tuning in on Apple, Fire TV, Roku, Hulu, Twitch, Rumble, Spreely, Boxcast. Good God, how many platforms are we on? YouTube, we're on like a dozen as well. Thank you so much for watching us on whichever app you're watching us on this morning. We're grateful to have you. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're grateful to have you. Help us spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. Well, the Patriot Front. Have you seen this group? This group that marches in Washington, D.C. and it protests carrying American flags and sometimes Nazi flags? Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a congresswoman from Georgia, has called for an investigation into this group, which she says looks suspiciously like feds. Joining us now to discuss this topic is Dominick Izzo. He's the host of the Rants of Izzo show, and he's joining us bright and early this morning, looking handsome. How you doing, Dominick? Nice tie.
Thank you. Sorry I didn't wear my tiny little mustache for this interview.
So tell me what your thoughts are on this Patriot Front group. They never show their faces. They're carrying Nazi flags. They're saying Sig Heil, and yet not a single one of them looks like the typical schlub that we're used to when we see from the anti-Semite community.
Did they just come out of nowhere and just like all of a sudden on the scene? Like, oh, the feds from a couple weeks ago are missing, so maybe they just replaced them. And I saw the video and I'm like, oh, come on. This is that. I don't. Why? Here's my question. Why Nazis? Do people not and it seems like in that crowd, what looked to me like a burly group of men, right? That's what it seemed to be. Do people not know that the Nazi party was more or less formed by one blatantly very large, fat homosexual? Hitler was kind of a closet homosexual. Himmler was what we would call a beta soy boy who was obsessed with other men. Do they not know that these all big burly men who are supporting what is called like a Nazi party is pretty much brought into light by men that opposing ideals?
You talking about Ernst? Are you talking about Ernst Röhm?
Oh yeah, Ernst Röhm was a homosexual, and he was a chubby little man. Yeah.
That's why they had to off him in the Night of the Long Knives. But Dominick, I'd like to talk to you about this Patriot Front group because Marjorie Taylor Greene, this congresswoman from Georgia, like who a lot of people consider her to be a right-wing extremist, she's really turned on that crowd, and she's kind of turned against a lot of people who were kind of big fans of her for a while. She kind of came out of the right-wing conspiracy crowd, became a congresswoman from Georgia, got really popular, and now a lot of people are sort of turned against her because she's rejecting these more insane elements of the right. I mean, frankly, I like seeing it, but I'm just curious who this group is. Do you want to talk to that?
As far as I'm concerned, they're just some radical group that I believe they're just made up. I'm sure it is something the feds put them into play. The fact that they're getting so much attention, or any group that gets that much attention, that's the sus part I have, right? It's like it holds no water for me. If you're going to come out of nowhere, start doing Nazi salutes, Sieg Heil, wear face masks, so fly the Confederate flag and the Nazi flag. It's not even worth it. And one part of it, I'm kind of glad Marjorie Taylor Greene's calling out of it. I think she's got some I can relate to her on this one. She's got some kind of like distancing to do, because I did at the time drink the QAnon Kool-Aid. So I think that a lot of us who sat there and realized, well, we got kind of played on this one. I think it's imperative that we kind of can show our ability to discern garbage like this. But I don't get it. I don't get it.
Wait a minute, Dominic. Hold on now. That's some news to me. So you kind of fell for the QAnon stuff.
Dude, hook, line, and obsession.
Really? That's interesting.
Dude, I was just like a carp on a friggin' hook, man. Oh yeah, it got me good.
No way. All right. Well, this is interesting. This is almost more interesting than the Patriot Front thing. A former QAnon person. I gotta say, that's absolutely fascinating to me, Dominic. What was it about it that took you in?
For me, it was the whole like the frazzle drip. That's what got me into it. And I'm like, all right, because I was a practicing Catholic for a very long time, and I know there's a balance to everything. So whatever the Catholic Church does, well, that the Satanists are going to do the same, and it just aligned. And I fell down the Tom Hanks, dude, he's eating babies, and I went down that whole thing. Like when the Comfort and the Mercy were docked, I was up online refreshing my Twitter feed every 2 minutes, like at 3 a.m, trying to get video of like the John Podesta human chimera pig children coming out of the sewers. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. They showed some military nurse crying, and I'm like, that's because she saw the deformed kids who've never seen daylight. Oh, dude, I was so suckered into it, because a lot of it did make sense. I don't know if you saw the Janet Osbard 3-hour documentary. It was a 10-part series called Fall of Cabal. It was brilliantly done. And the argument in there was like, it was hermetically sealed. You could not debate her on what she put up there. And I'm like, all right, I believe it. And then it just kind of went away.
Yeah, Dominic, I got to say, I agree with my friend Quest Fanning in the chat stream, who says Dominic has balls to admit it. That takes a lot of courage to come out and say that.
I appreciate that.
Well, how were you treated when you came out of it?
Oh my God, you're a paid shill, you're control opposition. Because at that time, I was 100% supporting it. I did have some big name accounts who were in the QAnon movement, like on my show. And then the problem with both sides is the second you critically think on your own and say, hey, like for an example, last night I lost probably about 1,000 followers on my Instagram page because I put up a meme of Christ hugging an LGBTQ community member.
Oh, boy.
Dude, people lost their minds. And I keep coming
Jesus out. Jesus does not love the gays, right?
Oh, apparently not, right? And as Christians, we're commanded to love thy enemy. But it's amazing how no matter what the affiliation, the party, the movement, if you don't lockstep with everything that the masses say, you're controlled opposition, you're a paid shill, you're a traitor. And I've seen it more with the conservatives in the last couple of years than I've ever seen it with the other side.
We got to give Dominic a big round of applause here, man. Congratulations to you for being a free thinker, thinking for yourself and being willing to take that risk. Because honestly, I know that my career has absolutely been stunted as a right-wing talk show host and broadcaster, because I almost never buy into the conspiracy theories, and I almost always am on the side of like the debunkers, right? I've never been a leftist. I've never been a socialist. I never jumped on board, with big government solutions for whether it was COVID-19 or what have you. But the right is just plagued with conspiracy theories, where it used to be kind of like the domain of the left with the anti-GMO crowd, right? A lot of 9/11 truthers and stuff came out of the libertarian crowd and things like that. but it's kind of like, the right wing now, it's kind of like the prison planet party, if you will, Dominic, the QAnon, the party of QAnon. And it's like, if you don't immediately buy into a brand new conspiracy theory that just arrived on the scene today, immediately, then you're obviously a globalist shill of the New World Order.
Well, they replaced QAnon with Trump, right? You had to support QAnon. Now it's no matter what he does, Daddy Trump is the answer. And that upsets a lot of people when you start thinking about it going, well, yeah, I want to see a debate between him, DeSantis, and whoever. I can't remember that. I don't want to categorize him, but the guy who went on with Don Lemon and went head to head with him, who's running for president. That guy is brilliant. And he's oh my God, I want to hear more about what he has to say. Right. But God forbid you say that, all of a sudden, you're anti whatever. Yeah, I am libertarian. I'm in the middle. I believe in conservative values, but those are my values. I don't care how you live your life, right? At the same point in time, too, I also believe, and this always gets me in trouble, I believe that free healthcare is an amazing idea. Free education is an amazing idea. Free food to feed people is an amazing idea. It's an idea. It's a great idea. I just don't know how we're going to pay for it. So that's the big problem, is people are so afraid to be like, yeah, I want the world taken care of. I do know the dangers of giving people stuff for free and how that bad it is for society. But at the same time, too, you cannot be balanced in America today. You have to be either left or right, end of story, or there's something wrong with you.
If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Peterson. If you like the commentary that you're hearing right now, make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm speaking to Dominick Izzo. He's the host of the Rants of Izzo show, and he's joining us now. We were talking a little bit about Patriot Front, and I'd like to go back to that for just a moment, talking about like the conspiracy theories and things like that. I assume you're familiar with the concept of agent provocateur, or provocateur agents.
Sure.
So, I mean, you're a former cop. Talk to us about that.
What would you like to know?
Did you ever see any of that kind of stuff happening as a cop?
No, I was too busy doing the domestics and gang stuff and writing traffic tickets and pissing off command staff. No, I never saw any of that.
Okay, but you wouldn't put it past the feds to do something like that?
100% I would. 100% I would. So in law, let's here on a smaller scale, let's look at it this way. If we're saying that, would the law, when we call it entrapment, right? Would federal agents create people group scenario in order to attract other people? It's kind of like, oh crap. It's like baiting a bucket and getting rats to fall in there, right? And then all of a sudden you got the rats. And I can't think of an analogy that's going to be similar to that. In law enforcement, of course, dude, we set up a squad car with a dummy, like a mannequin inside of it. And then another squad car would be waiting down the road a little bit to see who would be coming down the road to flash the lights to warn the person there's a squad car up there. Oh, traffic violation. Let's pull them over. Let's do it. Of course, that stuff happens all the time. If that happens on a micro level like that, you don't think that our bored government is like, how do we arrest more people, throw them in jail, and create more revenue? Hey, let's set up an entrapment sting and let's do that. Of course they do it.
Dominic, can I ask you now, moving back to that QAnon discussion that we were having there, what was it that kind of woke you up and like brought you out of that? Because
I was looking at a timeline. I really was. And when the election happened and I saw bigger name people move that timeline to, what they have to do is they have to wait for Biden to put his hand on the Bible to swear in. And then that's an actual crime that the white hats can swoop in and really arrest Donald Trump is going to get inaugurated on May 12th, then August 20th. When I started seeing these people rationally or irrationally lose their minds in hopes for something, what it started to make me realize that QAnon was a fantastic, whatever it was. I don't care if it was a psyop. I don't care if it was, some guy playing an Andy Kaufman in his basement laughing at all of us. It was a great litmus test of showing that Americans are so lazy that as long as you're doing the work, I don't have to. So America thought that Donald Trump was going to swoop in and be the savior, so we don't have to do anything. And that's that. When I started looking at that, I went, "Oh my God, we got played. We got played bad." Now, do I believe that stuff happens? Yeah, I actually do believe that satanic ritual, because that was my biggest interest in it, was the satanic exposure. I got interviewed by Vice News. They took 2 hours of interview and they edited 5 minutes to make me look like a transphobic racist, of course. And I had said in there, the biggest part of the QAnon movement for me personally is if it exposes that there are satanic rituals out there, then that means that Satan is real, which means that Christ is real. So for me, it was more of a wake up to have people go, "Oh, look, Jesus is real." And they just ripped me a new asshole on that one.
Wow, I guess Tolly Owens over in the live stream must have been following this as well. She says, yes, the timeline kept changing. Like he said, they got so irrational. Boy, it's just fascinating to me because I'm sitting there watching it the whole time thinking to myself, oh, this is obviously somebody, like, it's probably teenagers pranking boomers. No offense.
No, I'm a Gen Xer.
Gen Xers pranking
Yeah.
boomers and Gen Xers because they don't know how the internet works. But I mean, when it comes to the Trump question here today, I mean, the group of people supporting Donald Trump seems to be getting smaller and smaller, but they're getting angrier and angrier, Dominic. I mean, they're lashing out at anyone and everything that doesn't jump immediately on board the Trump train. Did you see how they treated Kayleigh McEnany the other day, his top press secretary, and said, it was after this whole week of them saying attacking Ron DeSantis for not being loyal to Trump, and then McEnany quotes Trump's poll, and he immediately throws her under the bus.
Then they started digging up videos because I'm one of those people that, man, I really stop myself if I see a title or I watch a video. I'm like, man, before you comment, research, right? Because you have, and they started seeing these videos of like Kayleigh McEnany, and she's like, yeah, I know Trump is not my guy, but it was pre-election in 2016, 2015. They had interviews of her.
So I'm like, yes, because they were like, we have receipts. She was attacking him, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, they never showed me any receipts, Dom.
Right. So this was before the election. Then
2016.
So is she allowed to change her mind? Aren't we all allowed to change her? Yeah, I'm getting tired of this Trump garbage with him attacking people. It serves no good. If anything, like I do not want to be at war with my countrymen. Live how you want to live. Do not shove it down my throat. Keep it away from kids. End of story. Trump is doing Joe Biden, he's just, oh God, that man is just a bastard since day one. He is doing more to unite people when you think about it because of his calm, elderly, non-aggressive personality. That is. Then Trump's, everybody is out to get me. Everybody's an asshole. Everybody is milquetoast. Trump is doing more damage for uniting than anybody else is right now. And that's what's pissing me off.
Wow, Dominic, you are a brave man to say something like that as a right-wing broadcaster. Boy, people would not. Whoo, man. The things that people say on the Wake Up America show, you just don't hear anywhere else. I guess maybe the Rants of Izzo show. I've got to hear a little bit more about your own program. Dominic, talk to us about your podcast to our audience, will you?
Oh, we're on this great network as well with you all the way opposite. So we're on 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Myself and Common Ashley are live 5 nights a week. We talk about everything from politics to porn. We're both conservative, but we did vote for Trump, and we acknowledge that. And if he's the candidate, we will vote for him. I'm not speaking for her, I'm just speaking for her. But we want accountability, and we think that everybody has the damn right to treat these people like the employees that they are. Last time I checked, our government works for us. And we keep saying that, but we don't want to hold anybody accountable. So yeah, we'll say, we want to see debates with Trump. We want to see Trump again prove himself, because I don't want a 70-something-year-old man not having the energy like Biden, 80, 81, running the country. I want to see somebody who's going to be on top of things, who is accountable and works for the people. Right now, it's still the Trump show. And it benefits him. It doesn't benefit anybody else. That whole, well, they're just attacking me to get to you garbage. No, they're attacking you because of you. And we're supporting you. So we're riding your coattails on that attack. And we want accountability, and we want the country to get back to some semblance of normalcy. And I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Man, I love that message. I just, it's kind of a challenging time on the right where we're trying to define what we really are. I mean, conservatives have been attacking libertarians for the longest time, saying things like, "Oh, libertarians are not useful. They get in our way." Right? The people who want to force other people to live how they want to live will always win over people who just want to be left alone. And but then I sometimes have to ask conservatives, kind of shoot it back and ask themselves, what has conservatism conserved? Right? It seemed, could you answer that question?
Conservatism has made your lives worse, and in some ways, right? And the example I'm going to give is the blind support of law enforcement. That's my profession. My profession.
Bro.
So if you cannot acknowledge,
I just paused that for just a moment. Let that sink in. Can we take a dramatic pause for a moment here?
Have at it.
I mean, you're gonna hear a pin drop in the room after that. Okay, repeat that again as a former police officer.
I will say that the profession I went into is not the profession that I fell in love with anymore. It has become people who are there to keep their paychecks, supported by a group of extreme people on the right who forgot what the hell the Constitution is. And we saw that in action from 2020 until 2023. Right. And it's a tangent and a half. I talk about this all the time. I'm so tired of seeing police videos with men and women out there who don't realize they're on camera every single second of the day. They forget what the Constitution is, forget what the Fourth Amendment is, will violate people's rights for mask mandates because they're terrified about getting their paycheck removed. That's what a right-wing conservatism has done. And again, if we go back to it, it's the same damn thing the brown shirts did back with the Nazi Party in the 1930s. So I have a big problem with people who are just not holding elected officials accountable, people who are appointed in a position of privilege to uphold their oaths and Constitution. And so that's what you're getting. And that kind of circles back to the QAnon movement is when you have, I'm going to trust daddy government, daddy Trump, daddy, guy wearing the badge, and you're not doing anything to, I would say, better your community by educating yourselves in the damn Constitution. This is what you get, and you're going to wind up finding yourselves in shackles and cages soon.
One last question before I let you go, Dominic. That's a hell of a rant. The audience is loving it, but let's give them a round of applause here in the chats. They're loving it. One last question for you, a technical question. Where do you stand on the issue of qualified immunity?
I believe that cops should be insured. They should be personally insured. Maybe this will answer your question because it's such a I can't answer it. So there's licensing and there's certification. I went to the academy for 3 months, and then I had 3 months of FTO field training, 2 weeks of shadow, and then 18 months, the entire time, 18 months of probation, certified. My certification never ran out. My sister is a hairstylist, went to 11 months of school, so Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day to learn to cut hair. She's licensed. Every 2 years, she has to renew her license, right? That also comes with insurance. I get the argument because I've done the job, but unfortunately, we have a lot of stupid men and women who are getting hired right now, and it's really bad. If cops had individual insurance, I have to wonder if they would think twice before doing some of the things they did, like your license, your driver's license. You get three moving violations on your license, you're convicted, you lose your license, right? Could you imagine 3, whatever the standard is, dings on your license as a police officer, and you lose your insurance, you can't do the job anymore? So again, but then that goes into the whole, well, maybe cops wouldn't act as fast and this and that. But I think there needs to start somewhere along the lines of that and returning to the Constitution purely, and you would see a massive change in law enforcement.
Dominic, now you can see why I have, ever since we had you on the show, I've been reaching out to have you on the show every single week. You are a tremendous guest. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before I let you go?
Support Austin or you're dead to me.
The Wake Up America show brings you Dominick Izzo. Thank you, Dominic, for your time. We appreciate you. Make sure you check out the Rants of Izzo show at 7 p.m. Central Time. We're grateful to have him here. Thanks for being generous with your time and getting up so early, Dominic. Have a great day. Yeah, take care. Dominick Izzo. Wow, that was incredible, epic stuff. You don't hear those viewpoints on any other talk show. from a former cop, no less. Hey, there you go. He's the authority on the issue. I got to say, the Wake Up America show is absolutely killing it. Grateful to have you here. Well, the only reason I'm able to bring you such great content, well, not the only reason, but one of the big reasons, main reasons I can bring you such amazing content and I can work for you, work my butt off to bring interviews like that is because of our friends over at Lear Capital, who are just absolutely delighted to work with you and to give you more information about how to invest in gold and silver coins. Now, don't tune me out. I know what you're saying. Austin, oh, you're doing an advertisement here like that. You have to understand just how revolutionary it is for somebody like myself to be free of the mainstream media, free of the networks, free of the boss, being able to bring you an interview like that. You understand, like, I've lost jobs because I had conversations like that in public. Right? You understand, like, that kind of a conversation, it can't air on mainstream right-wing networks. It just can't. They can't hear that kind of point of view, right? Because it goes in one ear and it goes out the other, or there's cognitive dissonance, and I'm not listening, or they get angry at you. I mean, everything he was saying about QAnon, all that kind of stuff. The reason why people like me can bring conversations like that to you is because of people like Lear Capital. Because Lear Capital knows what Austin Peterson is all about. They reached out to me and said, hey, Austin, we'd like to sponsor you because we believe in what you stand for. And you stand for something unique. You stand for something different. You stand against the rest. And people who invest in gold and silver are the people who think like us. If you haven't invested in gold and silver just yet, now's the time to learn more. Get a free gold and silver information kit over at learaustin.com. That's LEARAUSTIN.com. Visit them today. If you haven't done it, again, no obligation to buy. Just visit their website, LEARAUSTIN.com. They've got a promotion going on right now where if you buy some gold, you're going to get some free silver as well. So if you want to learn more about that promotion, give them a call, 1-800-885-2175. Ask them about the silver promotion that you heard about on the Wake Up America show, 1-800-885-2175. Write that number down again, 1-800-885-2175. When we get back, we're going to talk to Jon Miltimore about woke corporations. Like Lear Capital is not a woke corporation. Wake Up America show, which is owned by Stonegate Pictures LLC, which is owned by me, another non-woke corporation. So when you buy gold and silver from Lear Capital, you're supporting the Wake Up America show, you're supporting Lear Capital, you're supporting companies that do not support woke policies. So keep your money in the family. Spend your money with people like Lear Capital. Visit learaustin.com. Call them today, 1-800-885-2175. All right, when we get back, I'm going to speak to my buddy Jon Miltimore. Jon Burke's on Thursday. I got so many awesome guests this week. Heidi Briones, Elijah Schaefer, Jon Burke. We just had Dominick Izzo. I got Jon Miltimore coming up. Do you realize how hard I work for you? Being the absolute best in morning talk show hosts. When it comes to talk show hosts, I think that the morning show is the best, wouldn't you say? The Wake Up America show. We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. There's no script here. I'm just making this up.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Step right up, ladies and gents, to learn about the coolest president yet. He's not just any old prez, he's Calvin Coolidge, and boy oh boy is he different from the rest. He was quiet as a mouse, but don't you underestimate his power. He knew how to handle money, and he didn't waste an hour. He cut taxes, lowered debt, and balanced the budget with ease. No wonder the roaring 20s brought such prosperity and peace. But don't take my word for it. Grab a copy of Calvin the Coolest President and see for yourself. It's a children's book that'll make you smile and help your little ones learn about wealth. You can find it on Amazon Kindle or get your hands on a paperback at apforlibertyshop.com. So come on down and get yourself a copy of the book that's making waves all around town. You won't regret it, so get ready to be floored because Calvin Coolidge, well, folks, he really scored.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Any real-world experience.
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, you know, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America Show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America Show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself, or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me pups build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericashow.com. If you're still here through that commercial break, give yourselves a round of applause. You have a very patient audience. I know you don't watch podcasts so that you can hear commercials, but you know what? Podcasts are becoming more and more mainstream. They're starting to emulate the mainstream media in some ways, some good ways and some bad ways. I get it, right? But I don't talk for free. I do talk for cheap, though. The Wake Up America show is brought to you by listeners and viewers just like you who help support the message of economic freedom and personal liberty by doing something as simple as clicking that like button or subscribing to the channel. Help us to spread that message of economic freedom and personal liberty so you can hear more great interviews like that. Dominick Izzo, did you hear that? He was confessing to how he actually left the QAnon cult and how he was treated after he left QAnon. I mean, that was way more interesting to me than the whole Patriot Front discussion. I'm going to be honest. But not only do we talk about issues like that on the Wake Up America show, but we've got great guests from excellent institutions like the Foundation for Economic Education. The current managing editor is Jon Miltimore, and he's joining us for our regular Monday spot. Good morning, Jon. Thanks so much for joining us on the program today.
Hey, good morning, AP. Great to be with you this morning.
Yeah, glad to have you here, Jon. A little bit later than we typically have you. Thanks so much for joining us. You wrote an article over at fee.org, the ESG, that's Environmental, Social, and Governance. The ESG empire strikes back following Bud Light boycott. Boy, that is a great title, Jon. Your subheading is, one can almost feel bad for Bud Light. First of all, boo to that, no. Then you said the brand is caught in the middle of a larger war being fought by global anti-capitalists and the bosses of capitalism, which are consumers. What's the premise?
Well, first I said almost feel sorry for Bud Light. Yeah, it is a fascinating story, right? Like I think we haven't been captivated by a story like this in a while. And I say we, I mean America. every day there's new stories coming out on Bud Light. We watch how much their sales have cratered from year over year. They keep going down further. News stories show that they're losing space in department stores now, in retail stores, right? Like they're not selling, so they're going to lose, space to other beers, which is kind of going to cement likely, this decline. And trying to figure out why this is happening. First, like why are beer companies doing this, right? Like they're not the only company. Bud Light's not the only company doing it. You look, other beer companies they're putting out stuff on third wave feminism, non-binary pronoun stuff, transgender issues, like all this stuff. Bud Light's been kind of tiptoeing around in this for a few years now, right? Like, if you look, this was not the first time they've waded into this stuff. They've been doing it for 6-7 years. And when I was a kid, I watched Miller Lite commercials, and I'd laugh at Rodney Dangerfield pulling his, a mask comes off, his Bob Uecker underneath, right? They're funny, like commercials were very different. And today, like they're wading into these topics. I think Americans are finally figuring out what ESG is. Like you already talked about the acronym. I think that this is what's driving it. There's some cultural stuff there, of course, too. But mostly what got the ball rolling are these companies. They're scored on how well they perform on these issues, whether it's fighting climate change in different ways, or how they are making the world more equitable for marginalized groups and all these things. And that's why they're putting commercials out that are kind of their consumer bases are like, what who are you talking to? Like, we drink your beer. You're supposed to be appealing to us. And that's sort of like in capitalism, those are the real bosses. Mises, wrote about this more than a half century ago. Consumers are the bosses in a capitalist system, and they are fickle, right? When they say they've had enough, like they will walk away and go somewhere else. And that's what we're seeing with Bud Light.
Well, what's fascinating is you write in this piece about how capitalists at the, I guess, former capitalists at these corporations are happy to turn away customers in order to satisfy this agenda. But without their customers, there is no corporation. So it's sort of like the snake eating its own tail.
Yeah, what I think we're seeing is for a long time now, these companies have taken their consumers for granted. Like they're not even worried about their consumers. Who they're worried about are these ESG rating agencies who, if they get a poor score, suddenly can kick them out of a index. Like you're no longer in the S&P ESG index, and BlackRock is selling dumping all your shares in the market. Like there are real threats to this, to getting. And it's funny because the scoring system is very opaque. And even people that support ESG complain about this. Or like companies really don't know what how they're being scored. You had Tesla that was kicked off in ESG and the S&P ESG index just a couple of years ago. It's Tesla, right? Like they are like a climate hero, and they got kicked off. And I think it's mostly because Elon was tweeting stuff they didn't like, and they're like, okay, we'll show you. And if you look after that happened, now I don't think anybody knows like how closely this was related, but Tesla's stock went tanking over the next 6 months. They shed a lot of share price, like I think it's more than 50%. And so I think companies they're not irrational to fear this, but Light's reminding them there's a bigger threat is alienating your consumers to such an extent they walk away.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Peterson. Grateful to have you here. Make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the channel that you're watching us on right now. Help us spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. You don't hear opinions like these on Steven Crowder's show, I'll tell you that, but he is on right after us on Rumble. So Jon Miltimore is joining us now. He's the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education. We're talking about the empire, ESG empire strikes back. Yeah, I saw that Bud Light actually lost their rating with these ESGs because they didn't stand up to the controversy when the backlash happened. So I mean, they're really stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, and to me, it's unfair, and it does show again, like this process is not a science, right? Like Bud Light was trying to deal with this situation, and they get punished by I forget the group that downgraded them, and officially they haven't been downgraded. Like it's their rating is suspended. So it's kind of in, like what's going to happen. Like but they're hinting like you're in trouble. We wanted you to support this, and poor Bud Light is dealing with the biggest threat they've faced as a company, maybe in the history of as a company, and they're trying to deal with that. And on the other side, they're getting hit with this. But it shows how sinister the ESG stuff is. It's really like you can go back and watch like Larry Fink talking about this, the BlackRock chairman, and he's openly talking about why they're doing this. He says we need to force behavior change. He's talking about forcing people to change behavior in a way that he thinks is better. And the arrogance of that, to me is like who are we to say like, oh, you need to start changing your behaviors? It is to me like you can see why people call this an economic fascism, because instead of just selling people products, you're trying to control the behavior of other people through this. And to me, that's just, it's really vile stuff and really a threat. It's anti-capitalism in a way that I don't think people fully appreciate yet. And this really, I do think this is an important moment though, because the Bud Light thing is showing it's not just Anheuser-Busch's stock. Like the whole ESG apparatus is kind of threatened when consumers revolt in this fashion.
No kidding. Doug H over on the live stream says, I'm surprised Rice Krispies haven't been canceled for putting out Rainbow Krispies because the box says they have a fruity flavor. Very funny, Doug H. Jacob Champion over the live stream. He is, I think he's got the flintlock of Gary Johnson. It has a +6 against Gary Johnson. He's got the flintlocks next to his name, which means I think he's a 6-month supporter of the show. Thank you for that, Jacob Champion. Appreciate that. And he says, can you speak to who the individuals pushing ESG are? I hear it's BlackRock and Vanguard, but those companies are collections of pension funds. Is the man behind the curtain actually school boards? So do we know who's behind all this, John?
Well, I mentioned one name already, Larry Fink, and are there others? Of course. I think Larry Fink and BlackRock are, if there's a Mount Rushmore of ESG, he's on it, right? Mm-hmm. They've been supporters of this for a very long time. And I don't know if there's a more influential, person in it, but we should look back and look at the genesis of it. This started as a UN initiative back in 2004. So we're not talking about something that overnight happened. There's a vast system that has developed over decades. And so my question is, like, we were talking about this on an editorial call the other day, because I think a lot of people are trying to get their mind around how this works. We know where it started, how it's developed. I think the big question is, how do you take it down? Because this is something now, it's kind of in the water. It's a vast system. I don't think it's as simple as like, oh, you win an election and ESG is over. I do think there's a few places, like some of this is taking place within government itself. The SEC is creating rules that these rating agencies use. There is a government component to it. I think people need to understand that. I think the most progress we've seen is just the Bud Light. This is putting the fear of God into CFOs at Fortune 500 companies. They don't want to be the one that is the next Bud Light. And I think that's where the pushback on ESG starts. But I think the whole apparatus needs to be dismantled. I'm just not sure how that really looks.
Target's also seen a significant drop in their market retail value. Excuse me. The retail giant has been facing a kind of a firestorm, just like Bud Light, after displaying Pride merchandise in their stores around the nation. The former Target vice chairman, this is a guy by the name of Gerald Storch, he was on Fox and Friends over the weekend, and he revealed the one item that made the difference against the competition and sparked this whole backlash. He says a lot of retailers carry Pride merchandise, the plates that had different colors in it, fine. You show the rainbow, a gingerbread house, whatever, that's all. Who cares? Everybody carries that stuff. But the one item in the store's Pride collection that set it apart from its competition and ignited the firestorm was the tuck swimsuit. That's really what made the difference between the competitors. He says that's where the big mistake was made. Yeah, I would say so. That the tuck-friendly swimsuit probably put target on a bridge too far. But I don't know, John. I mean, that's not what offended me the most. It's the gay baby stuff that really bothered me. But I guess for some reason, the tuck-friendly swimsuit is a bridge too far for some people.
This is the difficulty in this, right? Like so much of this is subjective. Like so much what might offend one person is not going to offend the other.
But I mean, like,
And
not everything gay is woke, right?
of course. And you know, I always kind of feel bad. Like when I was a kid, you could wear a rainbow sweatshirt. It didn't mean anything gay. I'll be honest, I'm a little resentful that suddenly an image as beautiful as a rainbow now means this other thing.
I
And
know.
that it was just sort of like
I think
cultural
about that a lot.
appropriation or something.
I know. I guys, I think about that a lot, John. I really I miss the rainbow because I used to when you're a kid, like the rainbow was beautiful, like to have all those different colors and things like that, and they all work so well together. But now it's like if you got a rainbow on anything, it's gay.
Yeah, and I do. I resent the fact I can't put my 6-year-old in a rainbow shirt or something because people are going to get the wrong idea. Like he's supporting something
You're a
that we don't
groomer. You're a
agree
groomer.
with. And I say this, I have no problem with people how they live their life, right? I just don't like using symbols to kind of pressure other people to adopt in worldviews, and that's the world we live in today. I do think the ultimate takeaway here is, corporations for a long time, they were really good at doing two things: serving customers and creating profits for shareholders. And that was a model that worked for this country for a long time. I want us to go back to where corporations don't have to be political. And they don't have to support my politics or yours, Austin. They don't have to support Ron DeSantis's politics or Joe Biden's. They can just do what they do best. And ESG takes us from that model. It really does incentivize corporations to get political in ways that I think is not good for them or our or a society. And so if we are in a phase now where there's some backlash and we can return to that, I think that is good. I don't want to overreact and like suddenly now say like every corporation that sells something with a rainbow is going to be targeted. Or you probably saw some of the videos, people like taking merchandise up to Target and then leaving it there, like all that stuff. Like don't do that. Like that's not the way to do this. I think there's better ways, but I do think right now we're seeing great progress. Like Bud Light's getting hit real hard, and if this kind of tells corporations, you know what, we need to stop taking our consumers for granted. We need to start thinking about them and what appeals to them, and not ESG rating agencies. I think that's progress.
Yeah, I agree. One last thing or subject before I let you go here that's sort of tangentially related to all of this, John. Are you familiar with the group of people that call themselves post-libertarians, or kind of the post-libertarian movement that's out there these days? People who used to be libertarians now that have really kind of embraced more right-wing authoritarian view.
I only know, I think I probably know a few of the people you're talking about. It's not a term I've really focused on or thought much about, but I know that there's, some I've seen of, people I'm like, wow, I thought you were libertarian. Some have went a little left and some have went a little right. But that's not a term I'm that familiar with.
Yeah, no, I've seen like I think Vivek Ramaswamy is somebody who's called himself like a post-libertarian. Some like libertarian podcasters who achieved some level of notoriety. I think there was like a Peter Quinones, although I didn't really know him that well. I never really listened to him, but people said that he's really abandoned libertarianism. I left the Libertarian Party, but I still believe in libertarian principles. But these group of people who have left, I guess the liberty movement and consider themselves to be much more right-wing authoritarians. They say this is something that I frequently hear, and it's something that was quoted to me from this one right-wing authoritarian type guy by the name of Aaron McIntyre. And his view is that the criticism of libertarians is this: that people who want to force their views on others will always win over people who just want to be left alone. Right, that their criticism of libertarians is that the people who just want to be left alone occupy a negative space, and that they just want to sort of be, divorced from we like to rise above the issues that, left and right are fighting about and screeching at and clawing each other's eyes out and things like that. But what they say is that if you are the type of person who is willing to use force to go out there and force people to live according to your views, whether you're left or right, you're always going to win over people who just want to be left alone. How would you respond to that?
I've heard that before, and I see where why some people would make that statement. I think we need to think though, what happens when we adopt those tactics when we start to use the same means? If you look, I hate to go to Nazi Germany, but let's go back. Like if you look at German people in the 20s, early 30s, what were their choices? They had the communists and they had the Nazis. And that's to me the most frightening future is when you get both, like left and right don't mean a lot to me as terms anymore. I think they're so confusing. But if, I'll use that, those words for this. When both the left and the right start to use authoritarian, tactics, that's what you're left with, and that's what we need to avoid. We just need to remember that no, principles matter. And at times, are they inconvenient? Maybe, like maybe they are. But that's all the more reason to stick to them. If we start jettisoning, principle, we are going to end up with a very bleak future where nobody is actually standing up for liberty, and we become more and more authoritarian.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, John. It's just, we face, every new generation faces a different threat to freedom. And so we have to alter our tactics and our strategy in order to defend ourselves, because those of us who do just wish to be left alone, unfortunately, we don't really have an army, if you will, right? No standing army. And because we've sort of eschewed war as, war in general in totality, that leaves us with very few warriors to be able to fight against authoritarianism. It's a bit of an oxymoron, if you will, or a catch-22, in that the people who wish to have peace and be left alone still need to be able to fight, right? It's better to be a warrior in a garden, or a warrior in a garden than a gardener in war.
Yeah, I think you hit on an important distinction here. Saying you want to be left alone does not mean you don't fight. Saying you want to be left alone does not mean you don't resist. Look at you and I. I think, do we want to be left alone? Yeah. Are we fighting for principles? You bet. And I think if you want to go back and look at some of the 60s, people on the left. They did a really good job of resisting, like they cared. But like it's something, if you would have asked me 15 years ago, like the 60s counterculture stuff, I wouldn't have had a real good opinion. But you look, they fought some really bad stuff, but they did it the right way. A lot of peaceful sit-ins and things like that. And I'm not somebody, I don't think we're going to protest our way out of all this stuff. I'm not one of those people. But I think there are better ways to combat some of the things we're seeing today than just saying, oh, we're gonna adopt the, like some of these aggressive tactics, and that'll be, that's gonna work out well for us. I think that just takes us down a road further that we really don't want to go.
Yeah, John, actually, since you went ahead and brought up Hitler, I'll go ahead and expand on that for a moment before I let you go here. And just, yesterday I was listening to a podcast that explained, why didn't Hitler end the war when he failed to get the oil out of the Caucasus? Because Hitler had declared that, it would be over if they didn't get that oil, but they still continued to fight. And he was talking about an interview that was done with Hermann Goering while he was in the prison in Nuremberg. And Goering was saying, "Oh, well, that racism didn't have really anything to do with why we made the decisions that we made." And in order to refute that, the podcaster went and grabbed a quote from Hitler, which I think shows something more interesting in a meta way. This is a quote from Adolf Hitler, where he says, "The racial Weltanschauung is the worldview." He says this is their worldview. Weltanschauung is fundamentally distinguished from the Marxist by the reason of the fact that the former recognizes the significance of race and therefore also personal worth, and has made these the pillars of its structure. These are the most important factors of its worldview. Okay, so why am I bringing this up? Well, because when you talk about, right-wing authoritarianism versus left-wing authoritarianism, people might ask, well, what's really the difference between communism and Marxism? Well, Hitler goes on here to explain the worldview. The difference is that the what really distinguishes us from Marxists is that the National Socialist, or the right-wing socialist, recognizes the significance of race. Now, here's really the key statement in here. He says, for that reason, it would not have the right to call itself a Weltanschauung, a worldview, if the social program of the movement consisted in eliminating personality and putting the multitude in its place. Then National Socialism would be corrupted with the poison of Marxism, just as our national bourgeois parties are. I'm sorry, actually, the key point of this, oh, here we go. I'm sorry, this is the key point. If the National Socialist movement should fail to understand the fundamental importance of this racist principle, if it should merely varnish the external appearance of the present state and adopt the majority principle, it would really do nothing more than compete with Marxism on its own ground. So essentially what Hitler is saying here, in not so many words, is that the difference between Marxism, between right-wing authoritarianism and left-wing authoritarianism is just that the right-wing authoritarians are racist, which means they're really just the same. I mean, and Hitler's even saying that like, if we don't have the racial element to our ideology, then we're just Marxism, which I find fascinating because so many people would never admit that Adolf Hitler was really just a socialist. But it really is just right-wing and left-wing socialists or authoritarians, all of the same stripe, some with a racial ideology and some without, versus libertarians. It's libertarians versus authoritarians, period.
Yeah, no, you heard it from Hitler's own lips there. It's funny. I'm reading this book. You probably can't see it now, but yeah, I won't even.
There it is.
It's Rainer Ziedelman's book, Hitler's National Socialism, and he sent me a copy of it a few months ago, and I've been going through it. And I have an article started. It's fascinating because if you look, Hitler talks over and over again about social justice, and to me, it was almost like Hitler was the first social justice warrior. You're reading this, he uses this term over and over and over. And again, I think you hit the nail on the head. He did add this racial element to his socialism. I think he did it primarily to distinguish himself from Marxism, from the communists. They were him. If you look at him and Goebbels, they both really over and over again talked about. They declared we are the real socialists. But they consider themselves anti-Marxist, and I think it was for largely the reason you described. But they're both toxic ideologies. I don't care if you add a racial element to it or not. These ideologies need to be rejected. And I will say, like, one of the troubling things on the right is you are seeing, I think, more emphasis on race than I was seeing, 10 years ago or 20 years ago. More like sort of like keeping America pure in this way. And I think that's nonsense. I think it just plays into the hand of the socialists by with rhetoric right like that and any ideology that goes down that path.
Yeah, you're right about that social justice point there too. I remember when I went to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., there was a propaganda section where it showed Father Coughlin, I believe, who was this American priest who was one of Hitler's most ardent defenders. He published a journal where he celebrated Adolf Hitler, and the title of the magazine was Social Justice. Jon Miltimore, managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before I let you go?
No, not really. Check out our content on fee.org. And as always plug my Substack where I write every day. Check it out. It's The Take by Jon Miltimore on Substack.
There it is, The Take by Jon Miltimore on Substack. Jon, thanks so much for being a loyal guest on the program, being so generous with your time, and for this very high-level conversation. We appreciate it very much.
Thanks, AP. Great to be back with you.
Have a good one. What do you think of Jon Miltimore, the managing editor for the fee.org website? Make sure you check that out at fee.org. All right, it's time to go. Yeah, Cheeky Mare, she's got to go to work. Have you gotten a nice full picture of my beautiful shirt yet? Get your own at apforlibertyshop.com. That's AP, the number 4, apforlibertyshop.com. You too can look as sexy as this lady right here. And me, not so much, but it'll look better on you, I promise. Check out apforlibertyshop.com. Get yourself an All Gun Laws Are Infringements t-shirt. By the way, 4th of July is coming up. We've got a 10% discount going on until the end of the month for people who are buying from the 4th of July shop. So make sure you check that out over at apforlibertyshop.com. That's AP, the number 4, apforlibertyshop.com. Bye-bye to Nelson65, Bella R. Bye-bye, Steffi P for Liberty, Cheeky Mare, Studio 314, John Knox, Chris Morrill, Doug H., Tolly Owens, Kentucky Objectivist, Maria Krabs, the lovely Maria Krabs joining us, Corey C., and dozens of other people out there. Appreciate y'all very much. Have a wonderful day, a great week, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.